Hey, right here.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know this song, but you know, you're really cute.
A child of the 80s, Van Halen. I may or may not have had a lot of Van Halen posters in my bedroom as a kid in Memphis, Tennessee, growing up.
You may have.
Animal. Can't with you.
I don't know. I didn't grow up in that era.
You know, it's so funny because I always do that. I think I know the song, and then I'm singing it. My husband's like, you know, those are all the wrong words,
not the
babe.
words.
I love you, but those are all the wrong words.
You know you do that, too.
You do.
Email us, friends@foxnews.com. What song did you think said one thing your whole life, and then you grew up and you learned it said something else? I think we could get some good ones in.
Yeah, I think so,
Indeed.
too.
Email us.
Good morning. And talking about knowing things or not knowing things, we have a story today that has new details.
The New York Post has a big, the Jussie Smollett case, and there's a lot of details in this. So, Griff, you should break it down for us because we've got some big new evidence this morning.
So for our viewers that are just waking up, the Jussie Smollett case, this is a very popular actor, a great actor on the Empire show, if you watch that show. This all began at the end of January when the Empire actor Jussie Smollett claims he was attacked by two men allegedly using racial slurs, shouting MAGA country, doused him in something believed to be bleach, put a rope around his neck, a noose around his neck. Well, police were investigating it. Now, they took two Nigerian men into custody, one of which may have had a part in that show as an extra in the Empire show. They questioned them. They were picked up on Wednesday. They were released Friday night. Yep. And police issued a statement yesterday that has many today believing that Smollett's story may be falling apart. Here is the latest statement from the Chicago Police Department. It says, we can confirm that the information received from the individuals questioned by police earlier in the Empire case has in fact shifted the trajectory of the investigation. We've reached out to the Empire cast member's attorney to request a follow-up interview. Smollett's attorneys, Todd Pugh and Victor Henderson, did indeed put a statement out then to Entertainment Weekly that says, as a victim of a hate crime who has cooperated with the police investigation, Jussie Smollett is angered and devastated by recent reports that the perpetrators are individuals he is familiar with. He has now been further victimized by claims attributed to these alleged perpetrators that Jussie played a role in his own attack. Nothing is further from the truth, and anyone claiming otherwise is lying. So, we have a lot of new details this morning.
Griff, I think the key to the change in this case is the police in Chicago are no longer considering Jussie Smollett a victim. They've changed him. He's not a victim. Now, what exactly happened? They don't know. I mean, the New York Post is jumping ahead and saying it's a hoax. That's what a lot of people, according to sources, what people are thinking. But, we're getting new details that they think these Nigerian men could have bought, they have a receipt that they bought the rope at Ace Hardware. And all the stuff from the beginning. He was a victim of an attack, but he still had his Subway sandwich. Right. Just nothing really seemed to add up from the beginning.
It was right. And the truth is, we don't know what happened.
Correct.
We didn't know the story back then. We were waiting to see an investigation. Some in media were honorable about this and saying, you know what, hold on, this is an allegation. Let's wait and see. Let's let the Chicago police do their job. A small amount, actually.
Yeah.
But once again, as happened with the Covington situation, you had a whole bunch of people in media coming out and immediately in second one making a decision that he was in fact telling the truth, that he had been victimized, making judgments about Trump, because remember, the things that were being said were racist and homophobic, allegedly, and were referencing MAGA. And it seems that whenever there is something involved with MAGA or with Trump, there is a rush on the part of the media to make that judgment because they want to make that connection, even though they don't have all the facts just yet. And I would just always tell people, be cautious about that, because your credibility is on the line, too, when you do that.
But let me just play for our viewers who may have forgotten. It was Jussie's own statements on Good Morning America that really captured a lot of people's attentions. Take a listen.
Who says Empire, this MAGA country, ties a noose around your neck and pours bleach on you? And this is just a friendly fight? I will never be the man that this did not happen to. I am forever changed. And I don't subscribe to the idea that everything happens for a reason, but I do subscribe to the idea that we have the right and the responsibility to make something meaningful out of the things that happen to us, good and bad.
That is a powerful recounting of a terrible situation, if indeed it happened. However, it is worth pointing out, it is a Class 4 felony to knowingly file a false police report.
The Chicago Fox station is reporting that the two brothers, these Nigerian men, they told cops that the star paid them to orchestrate the attack. Again, we don't know. but it's been fishy from the beginning. A lot of people looked sideways at this and said, middle of the night in Chicago, you know, bleach, noose, a small scrap, but you got away and you kept your Subway sandwich. The evidence is falling. What Jussie Smollett does next will be a big question, because you do want to believe all victims at first.
Also, he didn't remember. Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, also just that he didn't turn over his phone records. Remember, he took a long time. He took 13 days. Finally, he hands them over, and he hands them over redacted. And the police were saying, look, if we want to find these people, we can't. This won't hold up in criminal court. So you need to show us the records. And there was a lot of reluctance to do that, which was a huge red flag. Can we just look at the network news coverage of Jussie Smollett, though? He does that interview, and you see ABC News, 52 minutes, 38 seconds. NBC News, 34 minutes, 57 seconds. CBS News, 13 minutes, 47 seconds. Total, 101 minutes, 22 seconds on a case where we didn't know what happened yet. Give it a minute. Let people investigate. We have now seen this 3 times. We've seen Kavanaugh. We've seen Covington. We've seen Smollett. We've seen a rush to judgment. They cover it. They put the narrative out there before they have all the facts, and then so many in media have to walk it back. I saw so many people on another network make the same mistake with Covington as they just did right now, and now they have to walk it back and say, oh, I'm sorry, and apologize. Oh, but we made the best case we could at the time. No, the best case you could at the time is to say, this is what we're hearing. We don't know yet. We will follow up when we have more information. That's what reporters do.
There's just one quick point to make on that, and that is, in the case of Covington, there was some confusion as to exactly how that whole conversation transpired, and then you had, of course, the moment we all saw, the video. However, in this case, what the Chicago Police Department puts on record, what they say about this investigation, is going to be the deciding factor. There's no second guessing about what we learned from them, and we have not yet confirmed all of the facts that some of the Chicago media is reporting and others, but we're going to find out. Yeah. And that's going to be very telling.
What's the common thread in all of these cases? MAGA, Make America Great Again. They think it's a violent Trump supporter doing something racist. You walk it back. Maybe it's a lot more complicated than that, and maybe it's not even true. Right. But the media jumps on it, and they create a cultural case as opposed to the real case.
Yeah, and it's not just media. It's Democrats. It's Democrats running for president. Look what they said. Senator Kamala Harris right away called it an attempted modern-day lynching. Nancy Pelosi, quote, an affront to our humanity. Rashida Tlaib, the dangerous lies from the right wing. So now you have high-level Democrats. These are people who are supposed to be considered credible. Yeah. They're running for president, many of them, and they right out of the gate feel comfortable enough to make those judgments and not be held accountable if that information does in fact come back and negate what they've said. It's amazing.
Put that back up on the full screen. Though. If you look real closely, you can see the date. January 29 and January 30th is when those Democrats, see that right there, the date, they immediately reacted without giving the police the time to tell us what happened, without having an official record.
Cory Booker said the same thing, by the way, modern-day lynching on January 29th or 30th. Again, the instant reaction society we live in, like, everybody take a breath. Let's find out what happened.
Yeah, social media doesn't help with that, by the way, because everyone wants to be the first to the story, and no one knows. The bottom line is no one's saying it didn't happen, no one's saying it did happen. Just give the investigation a chance, and then when we find out the information, then feel free to comment on it. Then make your opinion heard, but don't lose your whole credibility because you got to be first.
You know who's shaking in their boots right now? Jussie Smollett. If his story isn't true, this is a bad day for him because he's going to have to explain where this all came from. So we'll bring you the facts.
His lawyers have a decision to make, too, because they put the statement out saying that nothing could be further from the truth, and that anyone claiming otherwise, that Jussie had set this up, is lying. But here's the thing. He is on the hook, possibly, for a Class 4 felony for knowingly falsifying a police report. However, if he's questioned again and lies in that second questioning, he's going to open himself up and expose himself to further charges.
You know, we can't get to it right now. We'll get to it later. We also have Joe Biden, who's running for president, calling America an embarrassment. That's a tease. We'll talk about it. Wonderful things from a potential frontrunner.
We've got some headlines coming to you this morning. Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan is reviewing programs to scale back to fund the border wall. Reports show he will likely approve redirecting $3.6 billion from the military construction budget. President Trump declared a national emergency to get that wall built. Secretary Shanahan will hold meetings this week to determine how to pay for it. A community gathers to remember 5 victims shot and killed at a manufacturing plant in Illinois. Among those killed, Trevor Wayner, a 21-year-old intern on his first day of work. The other victims have been identified as Clayton Parks, Russell Bayer, Vicente Juarez, and Josh Pinkard. Authorities say the suspect, Gary Martin, was about to be fired when he went on a shooting rampage. Martin was a convicted felon and had the gun illegally. He died in a shootout with police. Senator Bernie Sanders on the verge of another presidential run. Here he comes. Politico reports the Vermont Independent recorded a campaign video launching a 2020 Democratic bid. It is unclear if or when the video will be released. Sanders would join an already crowded field of Democrats running for president. Oh, he's coming. Former Fox News contributor Pat Caddell has died. I loved Pat. I worked with him. This is a horrifying story for me. He reportedly suffered a stroke. The Democratic pollster frequently shared his insights on Fox and Friends. He was instrumental in Jimmy Carter's successful presidential campaign in the 70s. He also advised then-Senator Joe Biden and former Trump strategist Steve Bannon. Caddell was 68 years old, and those are your headlines. One thing I loved about Pat Caddell is that he wasn't a talking points guy. I had so many conversations with him on and off air. He really liked to be a thinker. He was a great listener. We need more people like Pat Caddell in politics.
Yeah, I thought some praise go out to his family because, excuse me, he was such a gentleman.
He was.
If you ever got the pleasure of working with him,
Absolutely
it was something special.
Outside the box guy. You
Yes.
never knew exactly where he was
Yep.
coming from.
Yeah, that's
Great
how I
guy.
like it.
All right. Democrats dismissing Trump's national emergency at the border.
Simply no emergency there.
Unquestionably not a national emergency.
All hands on deck to refuse this president.
Our next guest is a border chief overseeing one of the most active illegal crossings areas, and he's taking the media to task. You don't want to miss it.
Plus, instead of pressing her on her policies, reporters now picking out Kamala Harris's outfits. Instead, the fashion faux pas on the campaign trail. That's journalism right there on true display. We will bring it to you.
Oh, boy.
Get used to it.
Every family dream.
We're going to confront the national security crisis on our southern border, and we're going to do it one way or the other. Whether it's $8 billion or $2 billion or $1.5 billion, it's going to build a lot of wall. We're getting it done because we have an invasion of drugs, invasion of gangs, invasion of people, and it's unacceptable.
President Trump declaring a national emergency over the border wall, but a new Washington Post op-ed today dismissing his claims, arguing there is no crisis and there's no justification to specifically and surgically contravene the will of Congress. Joining us to react is Matthew Hudek. He is the acting chief Border Patrol agent, the Del Rio sector, one of the most active illegal crossing areas of the border. Chief, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you coming on. I communicated some with you when I was covering that last caravan, but I want to get your thoughts. We have this op-ed and some other evidence of the media saying that this just isn't a crisis. How does that settle with you?
Well, good morning, Griff, and thanks for having me on the program this morning. So I think the term crisis, some might say that's a subjective term, but I can speak to the reality that we're dealing with here along our 209 miles of border in South Texas. For fiscal year 2013, beginning on October 1st of 2018, our arrests here in this sector have gone up, have doubled. So that's a 100% increase. Concerning with that is the number of family unit aliens. That's aliens that are either, parent and one child or sometimes multiple. Those are up 400%. So when we talk about the numbers, they may be lower than what we saw at the early 2000s when southern border arrests were about 1.2 million. The challenge that we deal with now is it's a completely different population. Rather than single adult males, primarily from Mexico, 18 years ago, now we're dealing with family units from Central America.
Yeah, Chief, we got it up on the screen here, 364% increase of the family unit apprehensions. I certainly saw it, but we also got some news out of Mexico. And for whatever reason, the U.S. media doesn't want to report as much, it seems. But Governor Miguel Riquelme, who is the governor of the Coahuila state, which is the one that was in charge of the situation in Piedras Negras, deported a handful of people, confirming in an interview in Mexican press that there was multiple instances of MS-13 gang members mixed into that caravan. Does that concern you?
It certainly does. You know, whether it's specifically MS-13 or even criminal aliens in those groups, you know, we see people like that. We also see ones that have criminal records, have been in this country before, have been removed, and those previously removed aliens are a concern. Last week, we arrested somebody here crossing the border near that area in Piedras that had a prior conviction for murder and had been removed from the United States. So we know that's a concern when we're talking with any group, but certainly when we talk about large groups, it's an added concern.
And let me just ask you, as I asked all of the chiefs that I get the pleasure and honor of working with a little bit, I say, what do you need if you could have resources to continue to do your job better? What would you prefer to have?
Well, for us here, we have some infrastructure along our border within our 209 miles. I've only got a little over 4 miles of any type of fencing. So that infrastructure, whether it be the physical barriers to have that impedance and denial capability, it's the patrol roads to go with it to allow our agents to move, that infrastructure, and even stations and the physical facilities we need to get the job done. Adding to that, we need more technology. The camera systems and the technology that we have is as great as it is. There's an opportunity to increase that. And then most importantly, the most important part of that equation is the personnel. Manpower
indeed. Chief, we're almost out of time here. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to the men and women of the Border Patrol keeping our border safe. Thank you, sir.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
All right, check out this video. California firefighters saving a dog's life using CPR. This morning, it's inspired us to learn how to save a pet's life. And some on the left now slamming Trump supporters for backing the wall. Have the attacks on the right hit a new low? We debate. That's coming up next.
The 37 to 40% of people who believe whatever Donald Trump is going to say, they're gone. They're lost. They're zombies now.
Quick headlines for you. President Trump's nominee for UN ambassador is withdrawing her name from consideration. Former Fox News anchor Heather Nauert says she's dropping out because it is what's best for her family. It is unclear if Nauert will stay in her post as State Department spokeswoman. And the governor of Alaska offering to send the state's National Guard to the U.S.-Mexico border.
While the southern border may seem far away and distant, this crisis is real and a potential threat to every American, including Alaskans.
Republican Mike Dunleavy's offer comes as some governors pull their troops from the southern border. Pete?
If I must say, well done. All right, media outlets slamming President Trump for declaring a national emergency. Some saying the move proved he was, quote, unfit for office. But one MSNBC guest took it way further than that.
The 37 to 40% of people who believe whatever Donald Trump is going to say, they're gone. They're lost. They're zombies now. So we have to kind of cauterize the wound that is Donald Trump and his supporters and worry about the people who aren't infected yet.
So why does the left continue to resort to dehumanizing those they disagree with? Here to debate, former Tucson police officer Brandon Tatum and Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being here. Antoine, I'm going to start with you. Brandon, you came with the proper attire. Antoine, I'll start with you. Why can't Trump supporters be human?
Well, they can't. I would have not used the same words, perhaps, as the MSNBC guest, and no disrespect to him or no hits on him. At the end of the day, I think what's consistent is the fact that no one will disagree with the fact that Trump supporters are very loyal. I think they all drink the Kool-Aid and they're drunk off the Kool-Aid, and they perhaps will pass the Kool-Aid to other people.
Listen, you just made a nice concession, and then you accused them of being Kool-Aid drinkers.
Because, Pete, even Trump will tell you himself, look, his supporters are very loyal. I think he said it during the course of the campaign. If he went down the street or whatever he said during the course of the campaign, they will always be with him. And no one would disagree with that. He has a base and a following that are very loyal to him and the things that he believes.
So, Brandon, is Antoine being a bit too generous in saying this guest is basically just saying you're very loyal?
I'm glad Antoine didn't jump all the way off the boat. But this is what I'll say. We're not loyal to President Trump. We're loyal to America. And President Trump is defending America. And as long as he's defending America and doing what's right, we'll stand by those principles. It's simple and plain.
Antoine, I think that's a very fair point. I mean, Trump supporters would say if he was doing the wrong things, ultimately we wouldn't be with him, but he's fighting in a way no one else has. I mean, can you acknowledge that?
Pete and Brandon, if you look at some of the rhetoric that comes from this president, if you look at some of the behavior, and you think that's doing what's best for America, then yes, you are drunk off the Kool-Aid. And listen, Brandon, I believe in what's best for America. I'm very loyal to this country, but that doesn't mean I agree with everything the president does and the president says. And if you don't call him out for the things he does wrong or the things he say that are wrong, then you and I both have a problem.
Well,
it's not a matter of calling him out for what's wrong or right. The bottom line is this: we're talking about the emergency that he's ordered. We're talking about border security. We're talking about the things that he's been able to accomplish for this country, and I support all of those things. I'd like for you to give me an example of something that he's done that's anti-American.
Some of the rhetoric he uses.
Okay, we can argue over the rhetoric, but I want to get to a story we're hearing more about today. Jussie Smollett, the actor, who made accusations about an attack on him a number of weeks ago by MAGA supporters yelling racist and homophobic things. Now, this morning, Brandon, we're hearing the Chicago police have shifted the investigation. They no longer consider him a victim. They're getting new evidence that may allege that this was not an attack at all. It may be orchestrated by a couple people that he potentially knew. Brandon, your reaction to this?
Well, look, racism in this country is literally on life support. It's dying. People like myself and a lot of people in the conservative movement are literally trying to pull the plug. But the left seems to want to revive racism every chance we get. Brandon. This is a fake, faux outrage that was recreated and paid for by a man. If racism was so bad, then why you have to pay to create it? That man should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed of himself for what he's doing and represent his family and represent people on his side of the aisle.
Antoine,
he should be ashamed.
We don't know what happened yet. That's what I'm happy to say on the air today. But so many people, including Democratic presidential candidates, jumped in right away and said this is a modern-day lynching. Is not that type of rhetoric, without knowing the facts, creating a racial lens where maybe one didn't exist?
Pete, you and I have been at this before, so I will be very consistent because I appreciate you having me on. I will be very consistent and say, let's let the facts play out and let's see how this plays out. If it's what Brandon and you and others are speculating is true, then it's very unfortunate. It's like the boy that cries wolf, and what it does is it sets a very dangerous precedent, and it puts a real I think it puts an unwarranted pressure on these situations when they come up before, and it's like people will never believe you when you actually have these scenarios and situations. However, I strongly disagree with Brandon the fact that racism is essentially non-existent. America's carpet has lumps in it because we swept racism up under the rug for so very long in this country, and we cannot allow this to be a distraction for calling things out from which they are very, very true.
Briefly, last word, Brandon.
Well, why do they have to recreate these scenarios? Why can't the man just be walking down the street and actually get beat up by white people who are racist against him? He had to pay other brothers to do it. Listen, I was a former police
disagree
officer.
with you.
I understand how the process works. When they are investigating two individuals and they let them go without charging them, and now they're focusing their attention on Jussie Smollett, he is going to be charged. Story. This is the way investigations work.
I don't disagree with you. All my point in this is let's let the police do their job.
Well, that's not what Democratic candidates were doing at the beginning. They
can't speak for them. I can only speak for the gospel according to Antoine.
Fair enough. All right, Brendan, thank you both. Brandon Tatum and Antoine Seawright for the good debate this morning. Appreciate it. Good stuff. All right, instead of pressing her policies, asking her about them, reporters now picking out Kamala Harris's outfits instead. The fashion and journalism faux pas on the campaign trail. We will bring it to you. And Rick is live from Daytona 500, where he's gearing up for the big race today. Rick, good morning, brother.
One of the 2020 hopefuls that is running. Now, if you want a preview of what's going to happen on this campaign trail as the many reporters like myself cover these candidates, Kamala Harris was in South Carolina. She told the crowd, she said, by the way, you're going to get so sick of me because I'm going to visit so many times. She's warming up to the people. She's trying to get some familiarity. But too, with the voters comes a familiarity with the reporters. Watch this, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
So the point of this video is the people there laughing, taking the video and interacting jokingly about what looks good and what doesn't with Kamala Harris are the reporters themselves. So these are the people, because as you know, press outlets, when someone's a prominent candidate, they send someone to follow them and go with them and cover them. So she's at this boutique in South Carolina in between campaign stops. They're fawning over her outfits. They're suggesting new and cool looking jackets for her to wear. Then they're putting, it's one thing to do it in private. It's another thing to put it on Instagram and then say, look, it's a fangirl.
Yes, it's a fangirl moment. It absolutely
was suggested by this reporter. So Maeve Reston suggests you should try this sequin on. And, of course, Senator Harris did. And I believe she ended up buying it because she liked it. And so it was this moment that...
So we're going to get fair coverage,
just
right,
like, just to tweet it out unapologetically, it really was a fangirl moment. And I'm laughing so hard remembering Sarah Palin out there on the campaign trail. Not only were they not helping her find clothes, but they were every minute of every day critiquing her wardrobe, obstructing. I mean, this was really like a bunch of people like at a boy band concert. They were all into it and tweeting it out. But remember, they have to make her as likable as possible. Mark my words, Kamala Harris will be the one candidate that becomes the media darling. They're going to love her. They're going to prop her up. They're going to do everything they can to help her out. And this is just one example.
You know why? Because they're all liberals. All of them, except for a lot of great journalists we have at Fox News Channel. No, I'm serious. Like, these are the duplicity between how they would treat a female conservative candidate and what they do with her. It's mind-blowing. Yet they want you to give them credibility and pretend like they're calling balls and strikes. It's a joke.
And we want you to email us, friends@foxnews.com, and let us know what you think about it. I will say, in fairness, Senator Harris is a very charismatic person. I've interviewed her. I've covered her in Capitol Hill.
She's very smart.
And so she's drawing the press in already.
She's very smart to do that. You can't fault her for that. She should.
And can you do me a favor? Tell us if you like the jacket, too. I kind of dig the jacket. I'm not going to lie.
I wore sequins on New Year's Eve. I got it.
Turning to some headlines for you now. A convicted murderer and armed robber are back behind bars after escaping a Mississippi jail. The men were on the run for about 24 hours before U.S. Marshals captured them overnight. Investigators say the pair likely escaped their cells and breached the fence around the jail yard. They were captured in the same city where they escaped. Anthony Weiner is reportedly out of prison. According to TMZ, he's still in federal custody, but has been moved from a Massachusetts prison to a pre-release program in New York. The former U.S. congressman was sentenced to nearly 2 years in prison for trading nude pictures with a 15-year-old girl. He's scheduled to be released early in May for good behavior.
He's free.
He's free. A college student scores $19,000 with this incredible half-court shot. Take a look.
Come on, baby. Get it there.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Whoa. University of Kentucky sophomore McKinley Webb drains the shot and is mobbed by the Wildcats. It was part of ESPN's College Game Day giveaway before Kentucky upset #1 Tennessee 86-69. And those are your headlines. That's pretty amazing. Why can't I do that? I'm a terrible basketball player.
Although if you're like me, I watched the three-point contest and the dunk contest last night in the NBA. It was pretty cool. Steph
My
Curry
husband was watching that.
lost at the last minute.
My husband went, you and my husband have way too much in common. Watching all, eating the same food.
There's another contest today down in Florida that Rick Ragmuth is covering, the Daytona 500.
That's right, just hours away. The 61st Great American Race takes place this afternoon at Daytona International Speedway.
And that's where Rick is. He's there with Daytona International Speedway President Chip Weil with a preview of what we can expect. Hey, Rick.
Yes, good morning, guys. By the way, if you want to watch the race, it's at 2:30 on Fox. That's very important. But Chip Weil, hey, welcome, president of the Speedway. My question is, you're way too young to have a job like that. How did that happen?
Man, I've been very fortunate to have incredible opportunities that really have nothing to do with me. It has all to do with the people that have given me that opportunity and helped mentor me. And we have such an incredible team here at Daytona International Speedway who have given so much to ensure that today is special, and it certainly is going to be that.
I wanted to get to the top of this building to get this kind of view, so we had to get you on here. I don't know if you're watching, if you can see this view that we have up here, but this is a pretty special spot right here. We're at what was initially kind of the biggest stands until you built those stands out there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. This is the Daytona 500 Club. It's an incredible venue for people who want to come enjoy the races. But you think about the $400 million investment the France family made in the Daytona International Speedway. It just speaks to what this race and what this property means to motorsports.
All right. How many people can be inside this stadium watching this race at any one time? And then to that, it's sold out again.
Yeah,
right?
We're really fortunate. Race fans from 45 countries will be here today to watch the sold-out Daytona 500. We can seat 101,500 people, and so it's a pretty big feat to be able to do it. We're really excited, 4th year in a row.
All right. Well, congratulations on that feat, and best of luck to an amazing race for you guys today.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, back to you.
All right, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Good stuff. Thanks. All right, Democrats pushing socialist policies heading into 2020. But our next guest escaped post-Mao Communist China and is sounding the alarm. She tells us what it's really like to live in an equality state.
That's what communism is supposed to be. And she's been outspoken in her criticism of Amazon, even helping force its exit from New York. Now an executive at the company has a special invitation for Griff's not-so-favorite socialist. Dad's favorite. Some quick headlines back here at Fox and Friends Weekend. Enjoy some coffee with us, will you? All right, major sales starting at Payless today as the shoe chain prepares to close all of its U.S. stores. I bought a lot of shoes at Payless. The 2,100 stores will start closing in March, but most will stay open until May. The international stores, however, will not be affected. And an Amazon executive invites the congresswoman, the socialist from the Bronx, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to tour a facility after she accuses the company of poor working conditions. The Democratic socialist tweeting in part, "Performance shouldn't come at the cost of dehumanizing conditions." An Amazon executive says her claims are not true and has invited her to take a tour, just as we have invited her on this program. Jed, down to you.
Thanks, Pete. It's a rush to the left as Dems gear up for 2020, many pushing socialist plans like Medicare for All and a Green New Deal. But what would America look like if the left gets its way? Our next guest grew up in post-Mao communist China in the mid-1980s and is sounding the alarm. In a new op-ed, she writes, "Hey, Democrats, I've lived in a socialist country with income equality, and it was miserable." Here to explain is Ying Ma, author of Chinese Girl in the Ghetto. Ying, I am so excited to have you here because so many folks on the left right now talking about socialism, making it trendy. Can you give us some insight into what it was actually like to grow up in communist China?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning. Well, there's this strange romanticization of socialism